I want to talk to you guys today about the idea of finding what is God's purpose in our lives, okay? And I really like this video because it does kind of point out this guy who started Mercy Me, and when he felt a calling to do it for a long time, but he didn't really pursue that dream but only when he pursued it, when he started to actually fulfill what he thought was God's purpose in his life, that's when he started to become really successful, and he started to do it, and he started to do it good, and he was very talented at that. And so what I wanted to bring out today is each of us has something in our lives that we are very talented at, something that God has given in our talents, in our gifts, in our way of just the way we are, who we are, the way we interact with people, the things that we're able to do, the things that we're able to comprehend. God has given each and every one of us a unique set of talents and gifts. And the idea is we want to understand what is God's purpose for us. And we don't want to just kind of walk through life not really understanding what our purpose is. We want to try to grasp what our purpose is and try to live out the purpose that God has given for us, all right? So I'm going to start with this story, if I could, let's see here. About a fish out of water. How did I do that? I made it go backwards. But it's small, but let's see if you can make it big. If somebody has really good vision, they could read the story on the smaller side of the screen, but all right, how about I'll tell you the story while he's figuring it out, okay? And I don't tell it as good as it was originally written. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just ask Mike to read it, if you could.
There once was a man who netted 3 trout from a mountain stream and carefully placed them side by side on a thick patch of grass. Before he removed them from the water, they were like a liquid ballet in motion, fluid, graceful, vibrant, and alive. When he netted them, it was another story. As the trout lay on the grass, they were motionless, their eyes were fixed, they gasped for air, and they looked and acted stupid.
Hold on. Okay.
The man noticed they seemed unhappy, so he talked to them, hoping that his encouragement would change them. Little fish, don't be sad. You'll like the grass. Just try it out for a while. No movement, no response, no change. A few more seconds passed, the man's neighbor walked by. Hey, Bob, come and check out these fish. Bob sauntered over the man and explained that he was certain the fish could adjust. I'm sure they could prosper here on the grass. Don't you agree? Why not, Bob replied. So he also tried to tell the fish it would be good if they learned to like the grass. After all, if you like the grass, why shouldn't they? Still, the fish didn't blink. They just lay there, looking dumber by the second. Finally, a little boy approached, exclaimed, "What are you doing? Put them back. They can't be all they've been created to be when they are out of the water." Finally convinced, the man carefully placed each fish back in the stream. After splashing for a split second, all 3 swam away effortlessly. Again, it was like a liquid ballet. What ease, what grace, what beauty.
Very good. So it's a kind of a crazy story. I hope that wasn't a real story, but it's kind of to give us an idea of, are we like a fish that is out of water and somebody's trying to convince us that, oh, look at the grass, it's wonderful, it's awesome, how could you not love the grass? Don't just lay there, enjoy it, run around, play, have fun. How could you not love this grass, you know? But the problem was that the fish was created to be swimming in the water. It needs the environment to be right for it to actually bring out all of its talents. It needs the correct environment to be all that it could be. But when it was out of the water, it couldn't do anything. It was stuck. It was trapped. All right. And the question that I have for us today is: are we trapped somewhere where we are not supposed to be, where our talents are being suppressed rather than being encouraged? Are we trapped somewhere where we can't use the gifts that God has given us to the betterment of society, to the betterment of ourselves, to the betterment of everyone around us, and we are truly we are really expressing the gifts and using our talents to better ourselves and to show God's creative energy through us. Right? That's really the question that I'm having for us today. So one thing is, well, how can we find our purpose? All right? There's a lot of question, like, how do I know what God has created me for? What is God's vision for me? What does God want me to do? What does He want me to become? How can I understand that? And one of the things is that as humans, we have certain things where you hear something, you talk about something, there's something out there that's going to get you passionate. Something that when you start talking about it, you feel like you're fired up. Something that makes you so excited. Something that really is like, when I talk about X, I can talk about it for hours. Like the person who loves motorcycles. You talk to him about a motorcycle, he'll tell you about the best engine on the motorcycle, how fast it can go, he'll tell you about the seat, how it's the relation of the handlebars to the wheel, and how that affects how it drives and everything else. And you're sitting there listening. It's like, wow, what made you how did you know all these things? Somebody else will talk to you about calculus and all these derivatives, and you're sitting there, it's like, I don't know how you could be talking about all this for hours. And this guy, he loves it. He's enjoying it. He can talk about it. He's passionate about this, you know. Somebody else might be passionate about there are multiple different things. It's not just one single, but each and every one of us has something that we know when we get passionate about it, we get fired up. And sometimes you just can't stop talking about it. And it makes you light up. You get energized by that thing, and that's something that we want to find out, each and every one of us. Can we find out what drives us, what makes us passionate, what is it that makes us excited when we hear about it, when we talk about it, when we use it? Okay? So one part of finding our purpose is finding what you're passionate about. Another part is, it's not enough to be passionate about something, because let me tell you, I was passionate about stand-up comedy. I didn't do it. All right, because I'm just not good at it. All right, but you have to find something that, not just that you're good at. You want to find something that you're great at, something that you are really you rise above and beyond, you know, the average. Where when you do this thing, you're in the zone, and people will look and see your work and they say, "Wow, that's amazing! You did that! I can't believe that you did that." You know, sometimes I wish that I could have done stand-up comedy. That would be great, but I wasn't good at it. I wasn't. But that's, even though I might have been so passionate about it, I really wasn't. But even if I was so passionate about it and I wasn't good at it, I would try hard and I couldn't make it. If I wasn't good at it, then so you have to have a passion for what it is that you want to do, but you also have to be good at it. Actually, you have to be really good at it, great at it. You have to be one of the best at it, all right? And you're not going to be good at something right away, you know? Even if you're, from the get-go, obviously the first few times you apply yourself to something, a scenario, a situation, you're not going to be a rock star. You're not going to know it all. You're not going to, you know, be amazing. And that's what we want. We want something that's super easy, that you stroll right into it, and you know, oh, this is so easy. Look at how good I am. You know, nobody strolls right up to something. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. But if you're passionate about something enough and you're dedicated to it and you work hard at it, you're not going to just be good at it. You're going to be great at it. And that's what we need to find in our purpose. That's part of what we are trying to do as we are finding what our purpose is, you know? And each of us has different gifts. Are you good at listening to somebody? You know the gifts that you have. Maybe you're good at listening. Maybe you're good at giving somebody advice. Maybe you're good at financial planning. Maybe you're good at executing a plan. You're able to delegate responsibilities to the right people. Maybe you are you're good at speaking. Maybe you're good at listening to people's problems and helping them out, and just being a shoulder to lean on, that kind of thing. Every one of us has a specific talent that God has given us that we can use, that we are really, really good at, and it's something that you don't just get good at it right away. You don't get great at it right away, but you work on it and you use it and you keep working on it, and eventually you'll be great at it, you know? And I'll say something about doing putting a lot of hard work and effort into something, because sometimes we wish that things come easy, but when things come easy, you don't appreciate it as much. But anybody here will tell you, if they worked hard on something and then they have a final product, then they will really appreciate that final product. It's like, I don't know if any of you guys ever did yard work, but if you go out and you do that yard work and you push that lawnmower and you dig out all those weeds and you pick it out and you do all the things and you really put your sweat and energy into it. At the end, when you stand back and you look and you be like, oh man, let me take a picture with this. Oh, let me take a selfie with me in it. Let me post this. Look at my work. You're proud of the work that you did. And that's really when you put hard work into something, you're going to get something good out of it. You can get some, and the more work you put into the talents that you have, the greater that you'll be at that. Okay, so we said the first thing is we want to find what it is we're passionate about. The second thing is you find what you're good at and get great at it. And then the third thing that we also want to find out is, because sometimes we might know other people and their talents and their abilities much better than our own. And I'll give you a really good example where you might look at somebody who, one of your friends, and you see them and you say, let me just tell you something. I know that you're trying to, go into this career, but you're really not. It's not really suiting you. You're not that kind of person. You're not able to handle that situation as good as other people. This and that. Your talents look like you can handle another situation that much better. Why don't you pursue that and try it? That happened with me, where I was when I was in high school. I said, I love math. I love drawing. I want to go into a career where I'm going to become like an engineer, an architect, something like that. That's really what I want to do. And then I was refocused by guidance counselors. Like, listen, you might love it, you might be good at it, but you're really, really good at the sciences, and why don't you consider going into the healthcare field? Why don't you just go in that direction? Because you have the personality that would actually fit it, the knowledge, you get it real quickly, it's the different. So why don't you pursue that field? And I hated it, and I couldn't stand that I made this decision for the longest time. But you know what? Other people saw it in me, so I said, I'm going to go with it. Let me just try it, okay? Let me just go with what they're telling me. Maybe it'll come out. And eventually I found out that there was a specific purpose for me going into that field where I love the job that I do now. And I wouldn't have gotten to the place where I am if other people didn't direct me, didn't say, your talents are more aligned with this, So sometimes you need to ask other people, what do you think I'm good at? What do you see me doing? What talents do you? And I'm not just saying somebody that you randomly know. I'm saying somebody that you're really good friends with, somebody that you can trust, somebody like your parents, somebody like a guidance counselor that knows you well, somebody like a really good friend who is uplifting and helpful, not somebody who's always downplaying or a naysayer, because you have to be careful. There are going to be people where you say, you come up with a really great idea and you're like, oh no, you're crazy. Why would you ever, who would ever be able to get internet on your phone? What are you thinking about? That's crazy, that's insane. 10, 15 years ago, if somebody said, oh, get internet on your phone, did you ever see how slow phones are when you try to get the internet? I mean, not nowadays, but 15 years ago, you could barely text on your phone, forget the internet, right? But somebody had that idea, and somebody actually went out and did it, and somebody pursued it, and they made it really, really good, and they actually applied it. So the three things, we have to, number one, find out what we're passionate about. Number two, find out what we're good at. Okay, and become great at it as we work harder. And number three, find out from other people what they see in us that is really good, so that we can pursue that and make it better. And I'm gonna, let's see, how much time do we have? Because I'll try to keep it within the time that we allot. But I'm gonna ask a question. Are we supposed to? Should we be having plans or goals to achieve the purposes that we have in our life, or should we not plan specifically our life and let God and put it in God's hands. Should we make a plan for our future and kind of map out the direction that we want to take our life, maybe towards a purpose that we think God has given us, or should we just trust God and let Him take us where we will go?
I feel like we should have a plan in mind, but also ask for God's will. So we can map out something, and then if it doesn't go according to God's will, God will give you a sign. But I don't think we should just go in blind.
Not completely blind. You should have goals, but let's see what God. Okay, what else do people think?
I agree. I think it's just difficult to map out every specific thing that's going to happen. Like I'm going to go to this school, and then after that I'm going to go here. It's just sometimes it's like she said, it doesn't play out that way. So if it doesn't, you're going to go crazy if it's not according to that one specific plan.
Okay. How many of us actually, I'm not saying like sat down for hours, but like maybe sat down one day or at a certain time and decided, okay, this is where I want to see my life in 5 years or 10 years, and this is the path that I see myself going, and this is the steps, the hurdles that I need to jump over, and this is how you have done that? How many of us have actually done that? That's very good. Okay. And how many of us are just kind of going through it and just seeing where it goes, and we trust that God's not going to leave us, and neglect us. We kind of have that. Let me ask you this. Can we open up our Bibles for a minute? In Luke chapter 12, verse 16 to 21. I want somebody who has a loud voice to read it. I said Luke chapter 12, verse 16. I said somebody with a loud mouth, and I looked at Mike.
You're the worst. What chapter?
Luke 12, verse 16.
Right?
Yeah, go for it.
Then he spoke a parable to them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.
Very good.
Then he said to his disciples, therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, nor about the body, what you will put on. Life is more than food, and the body is more than clothing.
All right, good. Let's just stop there. So I want to bring out this verse only because, or this passage only because it kind of points to the opposite idea, that here Christ is saying, don't worry about tomorrow, what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink, who, when you worry, can add 1 cubit to your stature, right? So how does that align with making? How can I say, okay, let's have a goal, let's have plans, let's map out our life, but here's somebody who said, oh, look at this, my land is growing amazingly. I'm gonna make storehouses. I'm gonna store it, and now I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna relax. He said, I'm gonna eat, drink, and be merry. He's gonna live it up, right? So how can he now say it's okay to live it up? But now we're saying, okay, well, we should be making plans though. But here he's saying, oh, you fool! Today your soul is going to be required of you.
I just have a comment because when I was younger, especially when I used to take tests and stuff, like my mom was always telling me, like, do your best and do your best. So that used to always stick with me, and I think it applies to anything because you can't just go into an exam thinking that just because God has your back, you're just going to do well. You have to do your part, important part is mapping out what you want and just being open, like most of the time, as time goes, that's letting God do the rest. So yes, you have an idea of what you want and what you're going to get and open to achieve, but having like that leeway to like God to do the rest.
I think there's also another verse where they mention something about like who goes into war, like.
Okay, we'll get to that. That's on the contrary. Okay, but I promise we'll get to that one. But I want to reconcile this passage with what we were talking about. You had your hand up? Or?
And like the way the verse kind of sounds to me is that the guy was not necessarily planning for his future, but he was just being more selfish and trying to make sure that he was good at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I feel like God was yelling at him, like, you're doing it all the wrong way. Like, don't worry about your, like, do what I need to do, and I'll take care of it.
So what was wrong in the passage? What was wrong in this guy's actions?
That he was taking everything for himself.
It was motives, right? He had the wrong motives. You know, God is not telling him, "Oh, look at you! You planned for your future. Let me take everything away from you." He didn't say that. He said, "You fool! Today your life will be taken from you." You know, meaning that here you planned all this stuff for yourself in a selfish way, and your motives was just to help yourself to eat, drink, and be merry, and you could care less about everybody around you, and that's essentially the problem in that verse. So I brought it in because I really want us to, you know, because there's going to be people who like to say, well, let's live simple, let's put it in God's hand, let's see what God does for us, you know, and that kind of thing. But that's important. It's important to have faith. It's important to say, I'm going to put my life in God's hands. I'm going to let God take me in whatever direction He wants to take me. But at the same time, if I don't put the work into it, if I don't study for the test, if I don't put my best foot forward, God's not going to lift me up and make me go do the work that I need to do to be the successful person that you need to be. You know, it's not. It can't work both ways. You have to actually put the effort, put the work into it, and God will bless that effort and bless that work. And the motives have to be correct. All right. Let's go to the one that Michael was talking about, which is in Luke chapter 14. So just 2 chapters later, right? Luke chapter 14, verse 28. Can I get a reader? I'm gonna say somebody with a loud voice, not a big mouth. So Mike, you're out. What's that? Luke chapter 14, verse 28. All right, we ready? Maria? Okay.
For which of you intending to build a tower does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, This man began to build and was not able to finish. For what king, going to make war against another king, does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has does not be my disciple.
Very good. So here Christ is giving us a clear example that we can't just let things happen. You know, a lot of times we live our lives very we react and we're not proactive. Okay, we let life happen to us rather than actually living. Right. So when we live that way, it doesn't work out, because here you see somebody tried to build a building. He didn't sit down first and figure out, does he have enough to finish the building? So he lays the foundation, starts building, and then next thing you know, he has to close up shop and stop because he can't finish. You know, or somebody who is going out to war, he has 10,000, and he finds out that the group coming to fight against him has 20,000. You know, so he starts to think, oh man, they have doubled the amount of people. We are not going to win this war. Let me go out and make some kind of peace conditions so that we don't actually lose, you know, this battle, right? So planning is very important, and I'm going to pull it up, but there's a verse in Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 29, which is very beautiful about this as well, where it says, where there is no revelation, where there is no vision, where there's no revelation or no vision, the people cast off restraint, but happy is he who keeps the law. So what he's saying is that if you go through things without having a vision, without having a goal, without having a plan, without having a purpose for what you're doing, then it's worthless. All right. But if you go through things and plan it out and execute that plan, listen, nobody's saying that your plan is going to be on target all the time. Look at Joseph. I'm going to skip a few things, but look at Joseph, right? Joseph had a dream. What was his dream? When he was still maybe in his teenage years, like 16, 17, something like that. He had a dream. What was his dream? Is that it wasn't exactly that, but he interpreted his dream to mean that his brothers are going to bow down to him. Okay, and so he had this dream, and he expressed this dream to his brothers and said what it means and all that, and so his brothers started to hate him. And what happened as a result of the jealousy that his brothers had, with him being the favorite among the 12, etc. What did they do? They sold him. They sold him as a slave. All right. So here he is. He had a vision. He kind of had an idea of what God had planned for him. And what happened is that he got sold as a slave. I mean, years go by, and he's now a servant in Pharaoh's house. Years go by, and now he's a victim of false. What do you call it? A false accusation of being sexually assaulting Pharaoh's wife. And now he's imprisoned, wrongly so. He didn't do anything. And yet, through all this, he continued to have faith that God is going to fulfill the purpose, the goals, the vision that he had for his life. And he was faithful. And he's in the jail, and he works hard, and people recognize it to the point where he's so good at what he does, because he was a born leader, that they make him into the leader of the jail. And next thing you know, somebody has a dream, a baker and a cupbearer, and he interprets their dreams, and he tells them, you're going to be released. One of you is going to perish and the other one will survive. Please remember Pharaoh when you get released. All right? And so does he remember Joseph before Pharaoh? No, he forgets. He leaves him. He's still, all this time, and Joseph still continues to believe that God is going to fulfill his purpose, his mission. And finally, after all this time, Pharaoh has a dream, and then he asks, who can interpret my dream? And the baker remembers, yes, there was the one in the jail, the Joseph. He's the one that can interpret the dream. So he brings him out and he interprets the dream. And not only is Pharaoh super impressed by the fact that he's able to interpret the dream, but he's impressed by the hard work and the diligence that he does, and the record that he has of being a good hard worker, that he puts him in charge, second in command, in charge of all the crops of the land of Egypt, so that they can be prepared for the famine that's going to come. To the point where now people from all over the region are coming to Egypt to get food, because there's a famine all over. And then that's when his brothers come. How old is Joseph by the time that this dream, his vision, the plan that God showed him, how long does it take for that to be fulfilled? It wasn't 5 years. It wasn't 10 years. By the time he was second in command, he was nearly 40 years old. At least 20 years go by before all of this takes place, before God fulfills his plans for him. So Joseph was super patient, super faithful, and he continued to have faith in God, and he continued to work towards the mission, the purpose that he had in his life, even in the worst conditions. But he continued to work hard at it, trusting that God is going to fulfill all that he has promised him. All right? So plans, you might have a plan. Plans can change. Plans can be altered. Plans, you might think that your goal is this, but God is going to take you through all these hoops and loops, and you're going to go zigzag this way and that way. But all of this is to build character. You saw Joseph is a man of tremendous character. He was so. There's no better person that can say he trusted God and that's why God rewarded him. That's Joseph. He trusted God even in the most mired, miserable conditions. He almost died countless times in the bottom of the pit and falsely accused and all these things. But he trusted God through all of it. That's what we need. We do need to understand God's purpose for us and plan our life towards that purpose. All right. And finally, I'm going to talk about one last thing, and then we'll be done. And I know I'm probably going a little bit over the time, but we started a little bit later than the time. So the last thing is about the goals that we have. We have multiple different parts of our life. All right. We can separate them into categories. A lot of them overlap, but we can have spiritual goals. We can have family goals, social goals. I said spiritual, physical goals, work goals, school goals. All these different aspects of our lives, right? But we can't have goals that are antagonistic to each other, right? If I have my goals at work or my goals at school, and they're in a direct contradiction to my family goals, then something is wrong. If I have social goals in my life, but they're in direct contradiction to my spiritual goals, then that doesn't work. All right, and we also have to recognize that we might have certain goals, certain ideas, a purpose that we're born for, that God is revealing to us. But we also have to do the right thing to achieve those goals. And I'll give you a very, very clear example of this, okay? And this is one of my favorite examples of somebody who really just took, really thought that they're going to make things work, and they're going to make things right, and they're going to fix it, and they really just pushed their way through, and everything got clobbered, and it didn't work out. This was Moses, all right? He was born an Israelite. He was put in the basket. He grew up in Pharaoh's house. He was raised by his mom. She actually nursed him when he was a baby. She saw him grow up, but she never really told him. It's a beautiful story. But then finally he grows up to be a man, and he sees the injustice of the cruelty that what the Egyptians are doing to the Israelites, and he feels like really bearing on his heart, and he doesn't want them to go through this injustice. And so one day he sees an Egyptian man fighting, or I don't know what I don't remember exactly, but he saw this injustice, and he took that Egyptian man and he killed him, and he took matters into his own hands, and he started to make the change that he thought was necessary himself by force, not the right means. And then the next day he goes and he sees two Israelites fighting together, and he goes, "What are you guys doing? Why are you fighting with each other? You need to work together to get yourself out of the mess that you're in." And they say, "What are you going to do? Are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian?" And now he was caught, and he realized the wrong that he did, and he ran away, and he ran into the desert, and he just kind of he knew the purpose that he had. God put it in his heart to help the Israelites who were suffering in slavery. He tried something, it didn't work out, he ran away, and he left. And he was in the desert for many, many years. He was 40 years old when he killed the Israelite, and then and you would think, all right, well that's when he killed the Egyptian, and that you think, okay, that's an energetic person, somebody who's 40, he can really take things by the horn, he could really make a movement happen, he could really get things going, he can get these Israelites together to march on Pharaoh's doorstep and say, "We're out of here, we're not going to be your slaves anymore," and really get that movement going. That's the prime of his life, right? But God had a different plan. God had a different way. God had a much better way. All right, and so he went to the desert. He was in the desert for 40 years. God was preparing him. He was building him up. What was Moses thinking when he was 80 years old? Is he thinking, "Let me go back to Egypt now and help these Israelites who really were suffering"? No. He left that purpose. He left that mission. But God called him and he said, Moses, this is the purpose that you were built for. You have to fulfill your purpose. Go to Egypt and get these people. He's 80 years old now. He's like, Egypt, what are you? That's 40, that's a long time. I can't talk. I'm not good at this. I'm very old. I'm tired. Leave me alone. Come on. That's the kind of but God said, no, you're going to go, you're going to do it, you're going to be able to do it, I will give you the means to do it. And so he goes back to Egypt when he's 80 years old. And this now he's, much older, much wiser. And he goes and he does it in a much more powerful way, where God is able to show forth the greatness of his power, the greatness of through Moses. God showed how great he is, okay? Not how great Moses is, how great God is, okay? And Moses was able to show that to all of us. And finally, he was able to get the Israelites out of Egypt through all the wonders that God showed. But the reality is that he first tried to do it, but the means were wrong. The goal was right. What his vision was, what his goals were, that was good. The slaves should have been freed. But the means to doing that was completely wrong. And because his spiritual goals did not match with his work goals. His work goals was to get free these slaves, but his spiritual goals, the way he was doing it, did not match. So we can't have goals that are antagonistic to each other. We really need to have one focus, one purpose, one way of accomplishing it, and we have to be able to trust that God is going to not just reveal to us the purpose, but reveal to us the way that we can carry out his plan and be really inspiring and really show us what his purpose is and how to carry out our life to the fulfillment of that purpose. So I really want you to come out with two things. Is that we want to find in our life that thing that gets us passionate, that thing that we're good at, work hard at it and become great at it. And we want to ask other people, what is it that they see in us that makes us really good? And then we need to make a clear goal, a clear path that we can take. And really just, once you start to realize what your purpose is, I want you to sit down and make a plan. Make a 5-year plan. Think, in 5 years, where do I want to be? In 10 years, where do I see my life? Where do I see my family life? Where do I see my spiritual life? Where do I see my work, school life? Where do I see my service life? Where do I see my physical life? All of this, we need to have some kind of career, some kind of goal, some kind of direction that we're going to take our career, some kind of direction that we're going to take our spiritual life, and we need to map that out. It's not going to happen by chance, but it's going to happen when we say, these are the steps that I'm going to take, and this is the way I'm going to go. And if God changes that plan, just like with Joseph, he might change that plan, he might alter it a little bit here or there, but we're going to follow the footsteps that God is giving us, and that's what's going to lead us to the best way. And when we start to take matters into our own hands, and maybe I really want to become very wealthy. That's one of my goals, right? But then you start lying and cheating and stealing, and I mean, I'm not saying like stealing, like robbing a bank, but you cheat people out of this and that, and then your means to it become wrong. Then in the end of it, you're not going to get to the purpose that you were meant for. But if you follow the path that God is giving you, and we follow the way that God is showing us, then and we need to work hard at it, then God will bless the work that we do so that we can become successful. To God be the glory.